Vicki, we're getting a lot of requests, and one of those has to do with how to stop siblings from fighting all the time.
That's a hard one. Let's see if we can give you some ideas.
You said this is a hard one, and it is, because you can control yourself some of the time. In fact, we're all working on that too, right? So that we don't lose our cool and we're not the ones that are fighting. When it's our kids who are fighting with each other, that's a particular challenge because you don't control either one of them.
Right, because it's all about them. And so we've got to find what can we do to set up kind of a different expectation within the home. And probably the best thing to do is get really clear about your family rules right from the start.
So we're going to make a big, long list, maybe 50 or 60 rules.
Everything to memorize, right?
No. Does that sound terrible? In fact, I've worked with families before who had lists like that, and it's so exhausting to try to keep up with all those rules. And you know what? Those kids always find something
that you didn't mention quite enough.
Right, so we got to simplify it, but make it general enough that it's going to cover what we need to have happen. And then we'll address some specific ideas about dealing with the sibling fighting and quarreling after we establish the rules. So rule number 1, Vicki, what is it?
Respect yourself and others.
Do you see how that has to do with fighting? So what kinds of things does rule number 1 cover?
You know, it covers almost everything. How you talk about somebody, how you talk about yourself, how you talk to somebody else. And so respecting yourself and others. You do have some control as a parent is to remind your family of the rules. Mm-hmm. It can come off as nagging, so you have to be really careful with that.
Well, we call it reminding. They call it
nagging.
Something else. Punching, biting, gouging, maiming, hitting. All violations of rule number 1. Just so that we're clear.
Yeah.
But what about the kid who comes home and says, oh, I'm so stupid?
Yeah. I have a particular
Still
student
a violation.
That as soon as you say anything to him, he's like, I'm dumb. And so we talk a lot about that's not where we're going to go. We're going to respect ourselves and others.
That's rule number 1.
Right.
The second rule comes right on its heels, and it still includes respect, but it's about property this time. Respect property. Mm-hmm. I ask kids all the time, what is property? You know what the number 1 answer is?
What?
My neighbor's yard. Because that's the context they've heard it. You stay off my property or whatever.
But don't go in their property. It's not yours.
Property is anything that is owned or controlled by a person. Your shirt is your property. Your house, obviously, your yard, all of those things are property. And respecting property. So what if same kid that came home saying that he's stupid comes home and throws his backpack right on the living room floor or his shoes in the sink?
Besides being gross, they're not respecting the property because it has a home. That property has a home.
Right, a home and a place.
Yeah.
And so we put things in their place. We take good care of things. Vandalism, obviously, destructive behavior, those kinds of things are a violation of rule number 2. But also taking something that doesn't belong to you without asking. And rule number 3 is really interesting, and we've found that a lot of the parents we work with really appreciate this one because it covers everything that we didn't cover in the first 2. And honestly, what have we missed so far? The first 2 are pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, they cover it. They're pretty comprehensive, but we throw in this one, cooperate and obey.
Right. You know what I love about cooperate? Yeah. It's basically a rule to be on stage 2.
Right. One of the things that I'm thinking about as we're talking about this is not really saying how to stop them from fighting. But what we're having to do is set up that foundation first. And because you know what, you really can't reason with someone while they're in the moment of fighting.
Right.
It's a really hard thing to do. So really the best success you're going to have is to make this foundation really strong in the moments of calm as a family member. The other thing that I was thinking about is as you continue to vamp up and power up your parenting, you're helping your kids learn how to move from stage 1 into stage 2. Remember, one of the biggest markers that you've moved into stage 2 is that you're willing to cooperate. If you're cooperating, you're not fighting. You may not be happy, but you're not fighting. So if your kids are fighting with each other, they are acting stage 1 at that moment.
Now, if you're catching this video for the first time here on the channel, or someone has shared it with you, you may not have any idea what we're talking about right now.
What stages we're talking about, right?
There's other videos here in the Positive Parenting playlist that describe that. the place where you can really drill down on that is the Parenting Power Up. There's a link down in the description, and we'll talk a little more about that later. Understanding these stages puts you in a position of power and influence that you don't have before you understand it. So Vicki, as you're talking about this, okay, we don't really control our kids, but we want to create a family culture.
Right.
I thought of that word
Cooperation,
culture.
yeah.
Of respect yourself and others, respect property, cooperate, and obey. And obedience is a little different from cooperation because you obey someone who has authority over you. You like that, Mom and Dad? You cooperate with anyone, including your siblings. Anyone who's asking you to do something that's right and reasonable. Before we end the video, let's give you a couple of nuggets that you can use if you've got a problem going on with your kids fighting with each other, the siblings fighting together. One of the things that I've liked to use in the past is called response cost. Now, response cost is kind of like a parking ticket. It costs you something to have that response.
Okay.
So response cost, it's going to cost them something to have the fighting response with their brother or their sister. So one way to set this up really simply, get you a Ziploc bag. Okay, you know, the clear, it zips up at the top, and write with a permanent marker the child's name on that bag. It's theirs.
So they want to have ownership, so they know it's going to be theirs.
This makes it immediate. It makes it ownership. Now, I'm talking basically for kind of school-aged kids,
right, younger,
that we're talking about. If you're dealing with teens, you're dealing with younger, we might have a little different approach. So you put the child's name on the bag, and into the bag goes 10 things that they like.
Yeah, and you know your child best. It might be stickers, it might be Skittles.
Could be money too.
Yeah.
Coins, whatever they like. That's the key thing, is it goes in there. Now remember, their name's on it. This has some power and immediacy, and it makes it very concrete. That's my stuff. And you let them know, this is your stuff, as you hold up the bag. And you get to have this on Wednesday, which is a few days down the road.
Right.
Now we want to delay their receipt of it because we're going to use that in the response cost. Now here's how it rolls. We've talked about how I don't want you fighting with your brother, remember? Well, it's not fair for me to nag you about that. So I've decided I'm willing to put up with it. If you'll do your best to not fight, that'll be awesome. I'm going to give you everything that's in this bag. If between now and Wednesday you fight with your brother, it's only going to cost you one of these. Only one. You reach in and you pull one out, right? Just to demonstrate. It's only going to cost you one. Then you put that one back in because he wants to keep all of them, right? Now, it's okay. I know that you're going to try hard, but if it happens, that's okay. It's only going to cost you one of these. So you can have as many fights as you can afford. And then you grin a little bit, because if you're grinning, he's thinking.
Right.
And then on Wednesday, of course, you give him everything that's left.
Right. And now remember, you're not going to nag him the whole time during the fight. You're fighting with your brother. Stop your fighting with your brother. I told you shouldn't fight your brother.
No.
You're going to go get the bag.
Get the bag.
Where he can see it.
Open it
Don't
up.
do it behind his back. Pull it out and just let that be.
And that one goes in your pocket. You just earned that one. Remember, that's your payment for putting up with the fight. And so you keep smiling. If parents are smiling, kids are thinking. This is just an example of one of the techniques that might help with that. The key here is having a consequence that is meaningful, that's consistent, that's reasonably immediate. And that's why I like response cost for things like that. And it's an experiment. This isn't something you want to do long term. Set it up that way. You can say, hey, let's try an experiment.
We're going to try it.
See if we can help you with this.
Experimental about it. I'm just going to throw in one last thing. Always remember that you're going to model the behavior you want. So be careful. Kind of monitor yourself. Are you using a fighting tone with your spouse, with your child, with the teenager? Just be aware that you are modeling how to respond in a relationship.
And if you're struggling with that, that's okay. It's only going to cost you one. No, I'm kidding. It's okay. Let your kids know you're working on it too. Because that's going to make it more real to them. You can say, it's not okay for me to fight with your mom either. And they'll be like, oh. And they'll appreciate your efforts to improve as well. And we hope that we can support you on that. When I said just now, I hope that we can support you with that, what I meant was we already are working to support you on that. Vicki, you and I have teamed up to create that Parenting Power Up. Do you want to tell them what they can get there?
You're going to have more resources on how to handle difficult situations with your child and approach parenting with confidence. So check out the link that's just over on the site or down in the comments.
was down, face locked onto the phone. And I wished I